and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Scary Stories by the Campfire. We are your counselors this evening. My name is Jason,
I'm Jeremy.
and tonight we are talking about. And my mic's really running as well. We are talking about a movie that I absolutely love. This movie is called Dog Soldiers.
Yep, never seen
It's
it until Monday.
it's a werewolf movie. For all you guys out there who don't know what this movie is, I'm turning my volume up in my headset so I can hear better. This is a werewolf movie, and I consider it one of the best werewolf movies out there. Me and a guy at work were talking about this movie. I mentioned that's what we were talking about tonight, and we decided that this was going to be one of the best because nowadays, think about it, Jerry, nowadays, when werewolves turn into their wolf form, when the werewolf person turns into their wolf form, what do?
What do you mean?
Like, man turns into werewolf, right?
Yeah.
What do they do nowadays? In most of these series and stuff,
I don't know.
they turn into wolves. They just turn into
Okay,
big
no,
giant.
that was one.
No, I don't give me
That
that.
was
There's a lot of them
Twilight,
that
and
do it.
you know it.
There's a lot of them out there.
That was all
But
Twilight, and you know.
this movie has actual werewolves. And you know what? I love it for it. This movie has everything. It's got horror. It's got comedy. It's got action. It's got some comedy in there. I already said that, but
Well,
so this was your first time watching this movie, Jeremy. This was like my third time watching it. What do you think of it?
I thought it was good. The one thing I can honestly say that I really appreciated about it was, even though it came out in 2002, when you know other big movies were coming out, um, I liked the way the movie looked. That grainy, old style filming. I think that was one of the things that really just really stuck out to me as a something really cool about it.
I'm gonna tell you something, Jeremy. Rewatching this movie, I noticed. It may just have been me because I maybe I just missed it, but I don't think there was a lick of CGI in this movie.
There wasn't. All of the werewolves, um, all of them were actually played by dancers instead of stuntmen.
On stilts.
They were.
They have to be on some sort of stilts because those legs were long. They had legs going on for days.
They were. It was the dancers were ordered to highlight their grace and elegant movements. And the set was also designed size-wise to force the creatures to have to bend a bit upon entering, thereby highlighting their physiques, and wore stilts in their costumes that made them a foot taller.
Yeah. I
There's
the
very little CGI used in this movie.
Yeah, if the I didn't see any. I don't know what would have considered CGI. I mean, pretty much everything that happened in this movie was pretty practical. The werewolves themselves were practical. The visceral the visceral carnage. And when we mean visceral, I mean we're talking guts. We're talking sausage guts.
Yeah, and that scene with the dog pulling at the bandages, it was originally supposed to be his intestines.
No,
But
I kind of.
they uh, they said it might be too. They originally called for him to pull but they changed it to bandages. But the reaction is that people either think it's the intestines anyway, or think that the bandages is bad enough, and they're still grossed out.
I mean, there was a lot of like, I wouldn't say icky moments in this. It was just over the top, violent. Yeah, I'm looking at a Raven Fire's post there. Teen Wolf. Which one are we talking about? Are we talking about the Michael J. Fox one? Because that was a fun movie. Van Helsing, Underworld, um, Grimm. So much more turn into werewolves and not just wolves. Okay, maybe I'm misremembering things. Okay, maybe I'm just misremembering things. I know when me and my friend at work, we get to talking. You know, we just no. You mean no? No, I mean I remember. I remember because we've been watching. Me and her have been watching Grimm. Um, Van Helsing, I remember seeing Underworld. I've been watching with her. We watched the first one, hopefully planning on seeing the second one. And Teen Wolf, Michael J. Fox, yeah. Um, what?
Simon Pegg was actually offered a part in this film.
I could see that.
He turned it
I
down
I
after Edgar Wright asked him to save his first horror role for Shaun of the Dead.
yeah. I mean, I could see that. I mean, there's going back and like watching this movie because I saw the first time I saw this movie was on Sci-Fi, and that was when they were showing good movies on Sci-Fi, not those Sharknadoes and Ghost Shark and Land Shark or Sci-Fi got really weird with their shark movies. But I saw this one when I was younger, and this movie, this and Pumpkinhead, the one scene where you see the werewolf for the first time, he's like in the window, or he's out. He's already inside the room with the sergeant,
Yeah.
and you get to see the werewolf for the first time, full body. To me, when I was younger, that was the creepiest thing I'd ever seen. That and like the scene where Pumpkinhead's outside of a barn or something, but we'll get to that at another time. But that was by far like one of the most frightening things I'd seen. I was like, oh my god, it's so scary. And I watched bits and pieces of the movie. I never actually sat down and watched it when it was on Sci-Fi, but I do remember a lot, especially like the finale. And I remember not too long ago, Jeremy, you got Shudder, which if you guys are horror fans out there, get. It is an absolute must-have. There's so much good stuff on there. Um, but when Jeremy got Shudder, I got on there, and this was actually the first movie I watched on Shudder. I don't think it's on there anymore, but this was the first movie I watched on Shudder, and I loved it even more now than I did then. And then we watched it Monday, and I loved it even more now than I did then. And it was because I had me and Raven Fire were watching it on Monday with the rest of everyone, and there was just so many moments that I thought was pretty funny, and she was absolutely busting out laughing. She was just enjoying the movie in of itself, and I was glad to be like there for it. So, Jeremy, um what was your favorite part of this whole movie? We'll probably have to get to a plot synopsis here in a little bit so people know what we're talking about.
When the
But
cow fell off the cliff, or
when
when
the
it got thrown off the cliff and they all started shooting at it with blanks.
oh yeah, Oh, yes, the cow. Okay, so for all of you who are not aware, the plot of this movie is that there is a team of soldiers. What are they British or
They're
they're
Scottish.
British?
Takes place in Scotland.
Yeah, but I think these are British soldiers.
No, they're
I think these are.
Scottish. They're
Are you
played by
sure?
British people, but they're supposed to be Scottish.
It
The
actually says they're supposed to be Scottish.
in the movie, in the if you read the review or the storyline.
No, no, they're British soldiers. 4 weeks later, a squad of British soldiers, including Private Cooper, are dropped into a remote area of the Scottish Highlands to carry out a training exercise
Uh,
against a Special Air Service Unit
Somewhere
(SAS).
I said they were Scottish. Oh well. Anyways,
Well,
that's
I
good to know.
mean, I I vaguely remember them being British, and um they were in Scotland, but the they get dropped off and they're doing this training exercise against the SAS. Now, what they don't realize is that the SAS is actually sent out there to capture a werewolf. And there was only supposed to be one of them, as our friend Ryan was saying. There's only supposed to be one. There was only supposed to be one. But his unit gets completely wiped out, and he's the sole survivor. Well, the soldiers find him, and they end up hitching a ride back to this little cute little cottage in the middle of nowhere. And um, then the movie turns into a siege movie, kind of like Aliens or something, where the soldiers are having to take shelter in this house, and they're supposed to be, I guess, fighting the werewolves off. And that's pretty much what the rest of the movie is just a siege movie. And I think that's what I love about this movie. It takes place in this house, and you get to see the creativity with these um these characters on how they defend the house, because they're using a limited supply of gun or bullets, and so they have to resort to other things like swords and frying pans. And yeah, so that's pretty much the movie. It's a very simple movie. This was actually supposed to be a planned trilogy of movies, and they've back in like 2011, I think, is when they were talking about the second one, and up to today, they really have never mentioned anything about it. So
Yeah,
most likely this never gonna have this could be a solo film, and you know what? I like it for it. It doesn't need anything added to it.
yeah. It I mean, it's exactly what you said. It's a monster movie. It's a siege monster movie, and I think, like you said, I think that's what makes it great. You know, all the characters are likable. You good over there, Jason? I think he got interrupted.
Yeah, I'm good right now.
I just thought you were doing something. Um,
No.
so I think that's what makes the movie great. Is it's just a basic like horror monster movie. Very
Yeah,
basic, very easy going, but it's very impactful with how it executes.
and it's the way it plays is very intense. I mean, like we start the movie off with a pretty quick double kill right at the beginning when they kill the campers
Yep.
or the hikers or whatever. And then we kind of get the setup with the soldiers. And the thing I like about this movie is that from all the aspects of the characters, I like all of them.
I was about to say all the actors are very like all the characters are likable and the actors did very well.
And they interact with each other like actual friends would. You know, they're joking with each other. They can say mean things about each other and not take it personally. You know, they're just out there doing their thing. And so getting to see them get picked off one by one does leave an impact, especially when you have Ryan, who is the remaining SAS soldier, who just kind of blows everything over.
Yeah.
Like like when there's down to like three guys left, it's the sergeant, it's Cooper, and
Rose,
it's
Cooper, and Bruce.
Spoon.
Or is it Spoon?
Spoon. Bruce was the one who was killed in the forest. He ran
Yeah.
into the tree.
Which,
Um,
real quick, that was the one thing I did not like. The one thing I
you,
did not like.
you didn't like that.
No, because there's no way he would have ran into that branch with enough force to do that. I get it's werewolves, it's already unrealistic, but everything else they did was pretty realistic except for that.
I mean, I guess it depends on how
Uh-uh.
jagged and sharp the.
Not as far as it went out. It went out a solid foot to a foot and a half through his back.
Well,
And it was
yeah,
that. There is no way it would have went through.
yeah. Well, it was an exaggeration so they can get them guts out.
Just
They
saying.
want, they want, they want the guts, Jeremy. That's what this movie's about. It's about the guts, the sausage, the sausages. Um, but as they get picked off, even that Bruce gets picked off by running into the tree.
Yep.
Um, Sarge, in just about the same scene, gets disemboweled,
Yep.
but he's saved by Cooper. They kind of stuff his guts back in and get him back. Um, let me see. The next guy to go was it? I have a list of the names here. All right, so Bruce was the one who was killed by the tree branch. Terry was the one to go out the window.
Okay.
He was the one who ended up vomiting on Ryan.
Yep.
They were saying something. He just. Ugh. Um, I think the guy's name was Joe. Whoops, too far.
Yep.
Yep. Joe was the one who went out to the barn to get the truck, and he got it backed up, and there was a werewolf in the back, and he just pretty much duked it out with him and got killed. And then that left Spoon and Sarge and Cooper for the grand finale. And let me tell you, that was the most intense, probably. How long do you think that took? Like 20 minutes, give or take?
Yeah.
It was about a 20-minute finale where the werewolves get in, and spoiler alert, it was the woman who, okay, that's kind of the one thing I didn't like about this movie. It's a very weak point. It's easy enough just to kind of breeze over, so it's not gonna like really ruin anything for me. But it was just like this whole time she plays this kind of supportive character, right? She's there kind of helping them, blah blah blah. And then right at the end, she pretty much comes out and says, I'm kind of the big werewolf. And she starts the transformation, and they just put a bullet in her head. And that's it.
Yep.
You don't even get like a satisfying, like she turned into the werewolf and gets blown up with the rest of them, or get the fight like Ryan gets because he was a vampire. He was a werewolf also. He got transformed partway through the movie, and him and Cooper have a final showdown. But apparently, these werewolves were pretty much invincible. Apparently, you could shoot them full of lead and they just get back up.
I know. Spoon duked it out in a all-out fist
Spoon
fight.
And that's what I'm saying. The last, I mean, there were instances in this movie where the intensity was turned up to like a 13. You had the first siege moment where they're fighting them off, and right after the attack, he said something, and Werewolf grabs him through the window and takes him out. That was kind of after the dust had settled, and then you have the Joe, when he went out to the vehicle. His death was off screen also, but you got to see the aftermath. None of these guys went out without a fight. And Spoon, he had to be the most crazy guy there was.
At one
I
point, he
felt,
like kicked the freaking wolf's tooth out of his head.
yeah, he did right there when the werewolves were let in for the big final finale. Cooper and Sarge ended up upstairs, and Spoon got separated and it ended up in the kitchen downstairs. And he took on a werewolf by himself, and it started off with, I don't even think he started off with a gun. Did he have a gun? If he did, he ran out of bullets very quickly.
He did. He had that little Mac 10.
So it turned into a fist fight. He kicked the werewolf's tooth out, like Jeremy had said. He threw everything at him except the kitchen sink. He beat him with a frying pan. He
And stabbed
hit
him a
him.
bunch of times.
They got a steak knife and just went to town on his head. He just blood's flying all over the place. And I'm gonna be brutally honest. I think Spoon would have won if that second werewolf didn't show up. Like that second one kind of caught him off guard, and that was it. He just kind of got overpowered. He could, I mean, his intensity level was like through the roof. Like, don't mess with him. But they were all kind of creatively trying to fight back. Like Sarge had locked himself up in the bathroom, and instead of shooting through the door, he used hairspray and a lighter.
Yep.
And then Cooper cut his way through the wall into
With
the
a
bathroom.
piece of porcelain
Yeah,
from a sink, and
that
then
that
then he got into the bathroom. He used he grabbed a knife, went under the sergeant's legs, cut through the wall into that
yeah.
bedroom. Then they
So
went
they could.
into the freaking armoire, and he shot through the floor of the armoire just to fall into the kitchen.
Where they found Spoon's leftovers. And yeah, then what? Cooper went through like a trap door in the floor. There was like a hatch that went down into the substructure of the house. And Sarge sadly blew himself up along with all the werewolves, because apparently the werewolves, like we said before, were pretty much invulnerable
Except to
except
being
to
blown up.
except to explosions, like a high magnitude of explosions, and they go up. That and silver, because what Cooper, when they had their showdown, Cooper and Ryan had their showdown. He stabbed Ryan with that little silver knife, right? Took that little knife that he found.
Yeah, that little dagger thing.
Yeah, just stabbed him with it, and apparently, with that stabbed into him, he lost all his invulnerability. He just lost, or his invincibility, just lost it all, and Cooper was able to just put like one in the head. I guess he did get to put that dog down. Yeah, that was kind of a running thing. Like Cooper at the beginning of the movie was training to be part of Ryan's special forces group or whatever, and Ryan told him he had to shoot this dog, right? It was like a training dog or something like that. And Cooper said, "I'm not shooting the dog," and Ryan was like, "No, you're gonna shoot the dog." He's like, "I'm not shooting the dog," and Ryan was like, "Well, if you can't shoot the dog, why can't you just shoot the dog?" And Ryan was like, "It's not," or Cooper was like, "It's not because I can't shoot the dog. I'll shoot the dog if if the situation allows. I'm not shooting that dog." And then Ryan shot the dog anyway and kicked him off. So, yeah. Now, what Ravenfire you want to specify on that? What was that? Like that one little piece of silver just like completely dropped their invincibility. Um, Other than that, this movie is wonderful. It's fun. Like I said, there's actually are some really fun moments. The banter between the soldiers was fun. Um, the scene, I remember the scene that Ravenfire laughed so much at. I She laughed so much that I was laughing, and I completely forgot the scene was in there. He finally killed the dog. Yes, that was the whole movie was about him overcoming the ability to kill the dog. Um, the funniest thing that I'm just assuming that she thought was funny because it was the loudest that she had laughed was during the main siege, right in the middle of the movie, first time they siege the house, and Spoon, there was like a werewolf coming in through like the door, and he shuts the door. He shuts the door and he starts hammering. He's hammering on the door, trying to seal it back up.
Yeah.
He's hammering, and then the werewolf sticks his hand through the mail slot, and he just not even like without response. He's like, and he's like smashing on his hand, and then he's going back to hammering the door. That is like the most perfectly timed. That is the most perfectly timed, just comedic moment. Even if it wasn't supposed to be comedic, it was very funny. Yeah. Oh my God, Spoon loved it. Yeah, I think Spoon was just wanting a fight. I don't think I have to say that out of all these soldiers, I think we would consider Spoon to be probably the bravest one, but I think it's because he's just a little crazy. Like when they're like, "Okay, Joe, can you make it to the barn to hotwire the truck?" And he's like, "Yeah." And they're gonna like, "Okay, cool. You're gonna need a decoy." And they all look over at Spoon, and Spoon's like, "What?" And then he just he just does it. He gets out there with a flare, and he's pretty much drawing the werewolves to him for a chase sequence. And he has no problem with that. It's not like he's like, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this." He's just like, "Good luck, mate. Let's do it." And then they do it. It
So,
was just no.
uh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the film is a motif of the classic fairy tales Little Red Riding Hood and Goldilocks and the Three Bears. As Sergeant Wells' name drops her, Bruce strays from the beaten path and immediately gets killed, and Megan turns out to be a werewolf disguised as a human. Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the soldiers find food on the stove and help themselves. Cooper mockingly compares the werewolves to the Three Bears later on. Fittingly, Cooper is the only blonde in the group. The three little pigs. The soldiers barricade themselves in a house to protect from the big bad wolves. The house gets literally blown down in the climax.
Oh my God, this is a fairy tale. This is the best fairy tale ever. You just take everything and squish it into one and make it for adults. And that's what you have here. And you know what? I love it. I love it. That actually makes the movie better for me now. Now that I could just think of pigs and uh, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Yeah, I did notice the Goldilocks thing. I mean, I didn't realize the pig thing until you just mentioned it now. I'm like, yeah, that actually makes sense. They're in a house, it's being attacked by the wolf, and they ends up getting blown up. But um yeah, and the lady who is the werewolf in disguise, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I did get, like I said, I did get the Three Bears reference because Sarge, I think, mentioned something about coming in there and eating their food and sleeping in their beds or something like that. Um, oh yeah, Ravenfire loves this so much too. This, like I said, if you are a fan of werewolf movies, this is something you have to watch. Me and my friend at work were talking, and we both loved this movie, and we were just, and we're probably going to get to it here in a little bit about the like um the ratings and the comments people make about this. And he said he saw someone who was saying like this was like one of the worst movies ever, and I just wanted to go, what? No, no, it's not, man. There's far worse. This movie is like it is this is just the best. The more that I see it, the more I like it. It's and it's something entirely different coming off of like Phantasm. We've been stuck for Phantasm for like 5 weeks. It's finally something fresh, something different, something.
Ravager was fresh and different just in the Phantasm series alone, Jason, and you know it.
Yes, it was. But let me tell you, the thing that separates Phantasm 5 from this is all that god awful CGI. Okay. Everything in this movie to me felt practical.
So
Um,
there were multiple aliens callbacks. A group of soldiers under siege by feral but still intelligent creatures that they were no way prepared for. The line about short controlled burst is a direct copy. When the power goes out in the farmhouse, there's the exchange, they shut down the generator. Why would they do that? Is a near identical quote to they cut the power bit from Aliens, and plus the the fight kicks off with the soldiers deciding to either interrogate or kill the character with the most knowledge of the situation.
that I did know. I know there was a lot, and I sometimes when I talk about this movie to some people, I go, "Hey, just think of aliens, but with werewolves." And I think that's why I like this movie so much because Aliens, the second one, is by far that, and the first one is by far one of my favorite movies. I mean, the Alien franchise is by far one of my favorite horror movie franchises. Now, that's not to say that, we like to talk about 3 and 4, and I haven't seen Prometheus, and I haven't seen, was it Alien Covenant?
Yeah.
But I will always say that Alien and Aliens is always going to be like my top favorite movies, and just how different it is. Like the original Alien is like straight up horror with like almost like a stalker, like a slasher film. You got a guy or creature going around killing people one by one. And then you got Aliens, which is more action oriented. And in this movie, I love the action. I like how it goes from 0 to 60 in you know 0.25 seconds. It just goes, and when it goes, it goes. It is nothing but carnage.
Yeah, and it does. You go from like I said, you go with them walking through whistling and singing, and then they're out the camp, and that's when the cow falls, and then everything just kicks off from there.
Yep, pretty much. And these werewolves can go in the daytime. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently they could go during the day because there's a lot of scenes with the werewolves during the day. Um, there was something I wanted to touch on about this movie, and it just slipped my mind.
Well, until you think of it, what was your favorite kill in the movie?
Favorite kill in the movie. Uh, so that's the problem with this movie, Jeremy. I think were a lot of them were considered. I would consider them off-screen kills. Um, because I mean the couple in the tent at the beginning, kind of off-screen. Um, I mean, really, the only one that was kind of on screen was Bruce, and that was running into the tree branch. You that here, okay. Well, him running into the tree branch, you didn't actually see, but the aftermath you did get to see. Everyone's death was always like an after effect. It was like, oh, Joe died in the truck. You don't get to see the results until they open up the back of the truck and like just blood and guts roll out. Terry gets pulled out of a window. You don't get to see him until Joe goes into the barn to start the vehicle. And when he turns the vehicle on, there's a werewolf holding Terry's body, and Terry's all bleeding, his guts hanging out. They loved guts in this movie. I'm just saying that now. This movie loved guts a lot. But he's sitting there, he's like, ugh, and he's got guts hanging out, and and then the werewolf just kind of bites into his neck and rips his head off. So, I mean, I would give it to Raven is saying Ryan's death is her favorite.
No.
I
He,
I would give it my I don't want to say it's my favorite death, but I would say Sarge's.
I was about to
I
say
would
his
say
would be mine.
Sarge's is probably the best death because he took out all of them except for Ryan. He took out all the werewolves in one giant explosion. But I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm not saying like, haha, it's my favorite death because he died. I'm saying it's the best because of the after effect. I mean, yes, they all died and they all had a purpose. Boone was the safest, but the most epic, in my opinion. Oh, saddest. I was about to say he was far from safe. I mean, there was nothing safe in this movie.
Oh man,
Nothing.
he went Mike Tyson on that werewolf though.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, once again, Spoon had this amazing, amazing intensity to his entire fight scene, but his death is yet again is off screen. You get to see the aftermath, but the death is actually off screen. So really the only death you kind of see on screen is Sarge's getting blown up, and that was right before he became a werewolf. Okay, I remember, Jeremy. I remember what I was wanting to touch on. This movie, when I first saw it, I didn't know who any of these people were, and then I watched Gotham. I had actually seen, I had actually started watching Gotham before we got on, before we got Shudder. So when I saw this movie, after I started watching episodes of Gotham, I went, wait a second. I know that man. Sarge is Alfred.
Alfred.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. And he is so much more hardcore. And he's like Alfred to me. I
I
watch so
knew
much.
I recognized him from somewhere.
Yes, he is Gotham.
But you see, when
He,
I clicked on his, I must have scrolled past that when I was going through his IMDb before we got on here. I knew I recognized him from somewhere.
uh-huh. And it's the way he talks. He is just the way he talks. Like when he was given that talk about his whatever that guy's name was who stepped on the anti-tank whatever and blew up.
Yeah.
Um that whole spiel that he gave, very Alfred-esque.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out and say, now this is just me. Out of all the Alfreds out there, I think he's the best. I haven't seen that one show Pennyworth, or yeah, Pennyworth. Um where it's like a younger him in the military or secret agency or whatever he's doing before he becomes a butler. But this is my favorite Alfred just because he's got that kind of, when you see Alfred in most of the like comics and stuff, it's
Very old, very not doing much
he's
anything.
he's he's old, but he's more wise. He's like the guy who gives Batman advice, and he's the guy that Batman listens to. But in Gotham, he is the guy who inspires Batman. Like, you get to see like the advice he gives and the intensity he gives it. And that's what Bruce grows up to be, but also still taking that advice to continue his growth. So I just do think this actor is Sean Pertwee, I think is what his name was. He's just hands down like the best Alfred. Um, and it's really nice to see a guy who actually cares about his troops, and the troops actually look up to him. I do think that this was a solid unit. Alfred Hitchcock movies were insinuated, which helped make the movie. So the epic scene, and then scene with a werewolf in his face, you didn't even need to see it. That this whole scene was epic. Yeah, the whole movie is epic. The entire thing, and especially the last 20 minutes of just pure adrenaline rush going. Um, Not only that, but the actor who plays Cooper, I recognize him from a movie that Raven showed me, Maid of Honor. He plays a Scottish, I think he was like a Scottish lord, and he was getting married in that movie. Ryan was he was in what, Game of Thrones? I think we
Yes.
discussed.
Yes, he is.
I never. People are gonna hate me. People are gonna hate me. I don't know anything about Game of Thrones. I never watched it.
Love Game of Thrones. I
I
read the
know you
books.
do. You and I know Dad's watched it. I think I just never got into it. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just never got into it. Maybe once I clear out some of my movie watching schedules, I can, maybe me and Raven will. I think she's watched it. She's much more. Cooper plays in Rome, the series. He's a Roman soldier on that. Yeah, I didn't watch Rome either. Maybe we'll have to. You have to show me Rome. There's a lot of stuff I haven't seen. But what is that noise? Is anyone else hearing that?
No.
Jimmy? No.
Nope. I don't hear anything.
Okay. It sounded like a baby crying or a cat meowing. I don't know what it was.
It's
Um,
it's the wolves.
the wolves don't go meow meow.
These wolves do.
Oh, that's the thing I liked about these wolves. They didn't speak. They didn't speak, and I guess most of their actions are described by the female, the woman. What is her name?
Meg.
Got it. Meg. Meg is always like talking about them, but it's interesting to know that these wolves were working as a unit, like the soldiers were. They weren't just going to charge the house like crazy animals. They were waiting around the boundaries, the perimeter, so they could kind of see what's going on, and then they may make a frontal assault while a couple of them snuck upstairs. You know, those type things. So it was interesting to see these wolves kind of work as a pack. So
Well, it's time for ratings.
already up to the ratings, I see.
Yeah, we are. So, IMDb on a scale of 1 to 10, 63,000 people
All right, guys.
on a scale
One
of
to
1 to 10. And always
one to
remember, Price is Right rules. And go.
Okay, IMDb. I'm gonna give this movie I'm gonna say they gave it a 6.
Alright, so we got a 6 so far.
Let's go, guys. Let's go. Okay,
Okay.
Raven says 7.
Now,
PJ, you still with us?
if we
So,
remember last week, Ravenfire took all three home. Let's see if she
can
can
she
do
do?
it again.
Can she do it again? PJ, you still there? Okay, she got a 6. Anyone else watching?
Okay, we can't have the same answer.
Okay, fine. Give me a 6.5.
6.5. Okay.
Yeah.
So we got a 6, 6.5, and a 7. We'll give you everyone else like 10 more seconds to see if they want to
I
chime
don't
in
want to join in.
and see.
I'd give it a 10, so it has to be high. Not necessarily. I've seen movies where I'm like, this is the best movie in the world, and they got like a 3. And like, this, other people are garbage. Garbage people don't know what they like. I can't believe they don't like the Emoji Movie.
Well,
Oh God.
here we go.
Okay, what we got?
And Ravenfire, you have been dethroned
Dun dun dun.
by Jason. And
Yes!
the movie got a 6.8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Dang.
You went over just a little bit.
And now we are on to Rotten Tomatoes.
Please tell me this movie didn't get a splat.
So, everybody, on a scale of 1 to 100, give me the tomato meter.
This is critics, right?
Yes, critics 0 to 100.
Critics 0 to 100. I'm gonna go with a 63.
63.
Dun. Yep. Dun 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 dun. PJ goes with a 74. Ooh, Raven's cutting in with a 78. So I'm like the lowest one. Lowest guy here. 63.
So I got a 63, a 74, and a 78.
Ding,
And
ding. Watch us all be wrong.
this movie was certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes, with Ravenfire taking the lead back from Jason. It's an 81.
An 81, my dogs. Soldiers. My dog soldiers.
One critic read, with a splat falls back mainly on army squad cliches and role conflicts along the way, delivering a group of protagonists woefully short on personality. I don't know what movie he's watching, but I don't think Spoon was short on any personality.
I don't think any of them was. There is no way this movie was short on personality. There's nothing but personality in this movie. I mean, even characters like Bruce, who really didn't amount to a whole lot in this movie overall, even he had personality. You know, the campfire scene, the one where you're talking about where the cow falls on him, that whole campfire scene is nothing but them just enjoying each other's company. And that brings personality to the table. I mean, you got Joe talking about how he's having to be on this stupid training mission when he should be at home watching the football game. Between what I think it was like Germany and England or something like that.
Yep.
I don't know. It's some sort of big football game, and that's all he wanted to do was watch that game. And they even brought that up, and I love that so much about this movie, was that even the characters who had passed at that point weren't forgotten. Because I think it was just Sarge, Spoon, and Cooper, and they were talking to Ryan about something, and he had said Cooper had mentioned Joe Joe should have been watching football. It was the most important game of his life. He wanted to watch it, but he was out here on the training mission, and Ryan was like, "What point does this have?" And Cooper was like, "You know, he died out here when he should have been, safe at his place. So it matters. That just shows that, you know, Cooper, and he even stated Cooper would rather be with the underdogs
Yep.
than be with Ryan, who, was, SAS or whatever. And he's like, I don't care what you think. These are my boys and I'm loyal to them. And that's what I loved about this movie.
And last but not least, the audience score. Same one, 0 to 100.
Audience score, oh, God, after the critic had such a high one, I'm gonna go with an 87.
87. Alright.
All right, guys, hit me with your best shot.
She says 73. PJ says 80. And the verdict. Wow. PJ, you were off by one. 1 point put you over too much. The audience gave it a 79.
Oh, that means Raven gets it.
Raven, that's 2 out of 3. She's on fire.
This girl's on fire. Don't make me sing. I'm
Sorry, PJ.
horrible. Yes.
You missed it by
Sorry.
1.
Yep. Yes, you did.
You overspent.
You overspent.
You did not land on the dollar amount.
No, you didn't. That was over with. So,
Overall,
I
Dog
know.
Soldiers was a good movie.
Yeah, I mean,
It was really good.
it is by far one of my favorite movies. And it's not big budget. I'm starting to find out that I do like lower budget movies over big budget movies. I mean, there's always going to be those big budget movies that are really, really good, but this movie is by far one of the best. It's like it's something that needs to be spread. You go out there and you say, "Hey, you ever see that movie Dog Soldiers?" And people look at you with like a sideways glance, like, what?" Yeah, Dog Soldiers, the movie about military guys fighting werewolves. I think that's why I like talking with my friend up at work, because he just kind of has the same um the same crazy playlist that I have with movies. I can mention this weird movie and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that one. Have you seen this weird movie?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen that one." And then I'll say, "You seen this one?" And he goes, "No, I didn't see that one. That one sounds weird. I'll check that one out. How about you seen this one?" I'm like, "No, I haven't seen that one." And it just keeps going further and further. There's just weirder and weirder horror movies. But this is definitely a staple. This is definitely going to be. I actually got this. Well, let's see if I can find this as like an actual physical copy. But I've bought it digitally, so I now I don't have to look for this movie no more. Because I think that's the hard part. Was like when I saw it on Shutter, I was like, yes, and then they took it off, and you can't really. I don't think you can really find it anywhere else. So I don't know if it's streaming on anything, but I bought this bad boy digitally, and I'm like, I'm keeping this one. Can't say much. I bought all the Phantasms digitally, so I got them all tucked away right there next to Dog Soldiers. So,
Well, like I said, it's good. It's a good movie. So, well, that's all the time we have. Next week we will be looking at a different movie.
Oh,
Honestly, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it before.
I've
So
um
I'm
I've
curious.
always I've always wanted to see this movie. I mean, I didn't realize there was an older movie, which is what we'll be starting with because this is our series.
How many is in
But
the series? Just two?
there's three of them.
Okay.
There's the original, then there's they don't call it a remake, they call it a retelling or something like that. But then you have the more recent one, and then you have the sequel to that one. So,
Cool. Well, I'm excited for those three, and then I'm excited for my single because I've just picked it out.
oh god,
Gonna be great.
yeah.
But we will see y'all next week, same time. Uh, Jason, if you want to tell them what trailer we're about to watch.
Okay, guys, I've never seen this trailer, so this will be the first time I see this trailer. But I hope you guys are not afraid of rats, because this movie is going to be full of them. This is the classic 1971 Willard.
Good night.
Good night.
This is Willard, and these are his friends, Ben and Socrates.
I'm gonna have a big surprise tomorrow.
Willard takes good care of them,
What's that in your pocket? There's something in your pocket.
and they will do anything for Willard.
Joy.
Walter, please, Walter, there's something outside the door.
My God, look at the rats. Mr. Martin, I have a number of things to tell you. First, you stole the business from my father. And second, it killed my mother.
She died this morning, Willard, at 9:42 in my arms.
And third, you're trying to ruin me.
You hold up my sales department or even my shipping department one more time. Shut up, Willard.
You made me hate myself. Well, I like myself now. You know, my life has changed now. Two things did it. One was a friend I had named Socrates, and you.
Where your nightmares end, Willard begins.
Tear him up! No, Willie! No, Willie! Willie, no!
Willard is the one movie you should not see alone.